Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing today? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Block Theater, and we're going to be talking about Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. More importantly, the new leaks that have come out. I've been getting requests about this for a long time, ever since the leaks dropped. Everyone's coming like, man, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't really want to read the leaks, because what if they're true? I don't want to spoil the movie for myself. Then, of course, curiosity got the better of me, and here we are. So I thought it'd be fun to dive in to what was posted to Reddit to give it my thoughts and go through the whole thing. So this will be a video. This is going to be a conversation. So use the bathroom, put the earphones in, let's rock this thing. So on Reddit, it says, as stated in a previous leak, it's been reiterated that we will indeed be getting a young Luke and Leia flashbacks in The Rise of Skywalker. One in particular appears to be the opening of the movie. We begin the action scene by seeing one, if not the final training lesson between Luke and Leia. Leia giving up Jedi training due to the fact that she's pregnant with the son. His source on this method mentions a fight. So I believe that we'll be getting Luke and Leia in a lightsaber duel battle toward the beginning of the film. And this, I'm not going to lie, this feels legit. The Carrie Poppins scene in The Rise of Skywalker in The Last Jedi, that was so terrible that it absolutely, utterly started the breaking of the fandom. That's what took the first shot. Really just, it was bad, but we need to see it. We never saw it. There was no context there. So JJ giving us context makes a fair amount of sense. Now, it goes on to say, picking up in the current point in the timeline, Leia appears to have taken up the mantle of Jedi to mentor Rey in the wake of Luke's passing. And that makes sense. Because it just makes sense. I mean, again, this takes place a couple years later. Daisy Ridley has said that she, at this point, Rey has almost completed her training. She's a lot more advanced than we saw her in The Last Jedi. And maybe the argument of her being a Mary Sue will finally cease to exist, although I highly doubt it. Now, it goes on to say that early on in the film, we catch up with Kylo's story, where he is slaughtering people for the purpose of tracking down one of the film's MacGuffins, a device known as the Wayfinder. And the way he describes this was that scene in the trailer when Kylo body slams that dude on the red planet is a planet called Exegol. Now, Kylo obtains the Wayfinder from the Oracle and finds it contains coordinates to a point in the unknown regions. The Wayfinder that Kylo was given once belonged to his grandfather. And of course it is. Of course there's going to be artifacts that are going to be tied to Vader. Right? That's one of the things I've been hearing about, is how this kind of like ties into Harry Potter a little bit. Kind of feels that way. But that being said, yeah, it's totally a MacGuffin. It's just there. It's just there. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't really care. I get it if he's trying to like find more artifacts of his grandfather, maybe Sith holocrons, gain more power to continue taking on everything. Who knows? Anyway. Now, using the coordinates found within the Wayfinder device, Kylo arrives in the unknown regions. Here he encounters Emperor Palpatine. How Palpatine is still alive and how he ended up in the unknown regions is still a mystery. But the source says that this is indeed Palpatine in the flesh. Kylo and Palpatine's conversation apparently centers around ordering Kylo to find Rey and bring her to the Emperor with the goal of turning her to the dark side. Doesn't that seem kind of reminiscent to Return of the Jedi? And you might be saying to yourself, but didn't The Force Awakens this kind of rip off A New Hope? It did. However, this particular scene was already in The Last Jedi when Snoke wanted Kylo to bring Rey to him in the throne room, which I thought was a direct ripoff of the throne room fight scene in Return of the Jedi. And I thought we already went through that. I thought Rian Johnson just kind of wrapped up what he was going to be pulling from the other two movies in the original trilogy. But here we are. And also, by the way, this just seems like really dumb. But this next point is, I don't like this next point. Now, according to this, Palpatine is very old and decrepit, possibly on the verge of death. And he is about 113 years old, according to Google. His goal in luring Kylo to him and converting Rey into darkness is more or less to have Rey and Kylo inherit his new empire and for them to rule it together, which is just like lame. Does that sound like Palpatine to you? I have waited 30 years for you, Kylo. I am on the verge of death, and I need you to bring me a young bride, not for me, but for you, to fill with your seed of Sith greatness, your bloodline that was forged with midichlorians. And then you guys can rule it together because I'm going to totally be dead. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It seems so dumb. Here's where it gets even worse. In order to facilitate bringing about this new empire, Palpatine has spent 30 years creating a fleet of Death Star destroyers, which appear to be exactly what they sound like, Star Destroyers with Death Star tech mounted on them, giving them the capability to destroy a planet. And this note here is of interest. It says, apparently, once this particular technology was unleashed some 30-odd years ago, that Pandora's box can't be shut again, which is true. Once you discover something, you can't undiscover something, and people are always going to find a way to make it work. Now, according to the source, these Star Destroyers make up the Sith Fleet. And this is where we get to see the new Sith troopers that were showcased. So you're telling me, 30 years, this dude been out in the unknown regions, somehow survived everything in the Return of the Jedi, makes up this fleet of hundreds of Star Destroyers, Death Star Destroyers, and then recruited an army to run it, complete with these new Sith troopers that we've seen. God, I hope it's not real. Anyway, enough about Rey and Kylo. Let's get back to the rest of the Resistance. Apparently, we catch up with Finn and Poe returning to the jungle planet, depicted in some of the behind-the-scenes images shown at Celebration. The duo has been in contact with an informant from within the First Order. The mole was told Finn and Poe about Kylo coming into possession of the Wayfinder. Poe and Finn tell Leia about this, and she sends Rey, Chewbacca, 3PO, and the other droids to accompany them on the mission. In order to get them going on their quest, Leia puts them on contact with somebody on Pasana, which is a desert planet. At this point in the story is where the Resistance team makes their way to the desert planet seen in the trailer, and behind-the-scenes footage, it's revealed that Leia's contact is Lando Calrissian. Lando points them towards another one of the MacGuffins, a Sith artifact that apparently turns out to be a dagger. The dagger has some kind of writing on it that C-3PO can't... he can speak over 4,000 languages, but he can't decipher Sith? Maybe. I don't know. That one, I'm not going to lie. That one seems likely. I'm just being fair. During this time, during our heroes' time on Pasana, Kylo initiates a forced mind link between himself and Rey. Through their connection, Kylo discovers where Rey and the Resistance crew are and leaves to pursue them. Eventually, Kylo and the Knights of Ren arrive and begin to attack our heroes. One thing leads to another, and the Resistance crew gets outnumbered, and they are forced to make their escape on an old ship, leaving the Millennium Falcon behind. Kylo discovers the Falcon and takes it back to his sergeant. Why would he take it? I mean, I could see, like, if they were doing something kind of like A New Hope, where like they have to smuggle themselves into another dreadnought. Like, that would be kind of cool. Like, oh, they're gone, but take the ship. Why? It was my father's. Now it's mine by right. Like, what are you going to do with it? You don't care. He doesn't care. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That is, unless they're trying to set up some kind of sentimentality in order for Kylo to then become good. Now, as previously mentioned, 3PO is confronted with a challenge he's not equipped to handle. The artifact contains a language that 3PO can't translate without modifications. In order to modify its programming, Poe brings the team to the wintry planet seen in the teaser. There, C-3PO is modified to allow the translation of the artifact, and he is told that the modification is done by a small alien. Once translatable, the dagger supposedly reveals information regarding a second Wayfinder, this one having belonged to the Emperor himself, leading the team to journey to the Forest Moon of Endor. How would they know that? Was it just like, oh, it was belonged to the Emperor himself, it was on the second Death Star, where did that get destroyed at? Oh, let's go to Endor. I mean, like, that's, again, if this stuff is true, that does seem like just a logical step in writing a script. I can't say I would make it any more interesting myself. Now, during the events that lead to the modification of 3PO on the wintry planet, Kylo initiates another Force connection. Kylo supposedly uses this as an opportunity to begin forcing Rey down the path of darkness. He does this by antagonizing her. Kylo tells her that he knows about the dagger and what it was once used for. Kylo says that it was used to murder her parents. Kylo maintains that her parents are nobodies in the grand story. This angers Rey, and she lashes out at Kylo, and a lightsaber duel ensues. Rey is on Kijimi, and Kylo is on his Star Destroyer. According to the source, no flashes or any additional locations are seen during the fight. Ren keeps the link alive long enough to learn Rey's location, and eventually pursues her in his Star Destroyer like before. So he does 2 Force connections, and he tracks her ass each time. That doesn't make any sense to me. It just really doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Like, she figured, like, Rey is not that dumb, or maybe she is. Now, this is where we get introduced to Zori Bliss, saying that the sources say that she has a history with Poe prior to Kerry Russell saying the same thing in an interview. What this history is still a mystery. Now, once Kylo arrives, our gang of heroes decide to sneak aboard and attempt to recover the Falcon prior to leaving. Okay. So he brought the Falcon to them. He took it for some reason, and then just to put it in storage, and then brought it in the Star Destroyer. And like, oh no, there's a Falcon. Like, how are they going to get on? Okay. The rescue plane goes awry, and the whole group gets captured of the First Order. It's at this point 2 things happen. It's revealed that Hux is the First Order mole that's been feeding the Resistance information, and he allows the heroes to escape while Kylo is distracted by dueling Rey in person. That, I'm not going to lie, if that feels like it's accurate, like it could be accurate. During the duel, Kylo adds another wrinkle to Rey's backstory. He maintains that while her parents are nobodies, her grandparents, more specifically her grandfather, wasn't. Kylo tells Rey that she is a granddaughter of Palpatine. This explains his interest in bringing a random nobody from Jakku into the fold. The crew recovers the Falcon, Rey reconnects with them, and they all flee. So she's not a clone. She's Palpatine's real daughter. She's like 19, 20 something. She's like in her early 20s. She's in over 30. If he's been hiding out in the unknown regions past the Outer Rim, has he just been like firing off his seed into space and hoping to God that through the Force it manipulates it enough to randomly get a chick pregnant? Because that kind of feels like the midichlorians getting Shimi pregnant again, doesn't it? Feels a little bit like the Force Awakens here, or like the Phantom Menace. It really does. Not good. Now, following the battle aboard the Death Star, or the Star Destroyer, and escapes again, Death Star feels like it, then escape on the Falcon, Rey uses her newly gleaned information resulting from 3PO's modifications and translation of the dagger to travel to Endor. At this time, it's a little unclear how Kylo gets from point A to point B, but supposedly he's waiting for Rey in Palpatine's throne room aboard the wreckage of the second Death Star. You're telling me it's been 30 years and there ain't like a family of Ewoks living in there? But look, I'm not going to lie. If we get to see Wicket, I'm a cheer. I'm going to be very happy if we get to see Wicket. Naturally, they fight. The specifics of this duel are unknown to me, but what I've been told about it is that at this point, when Rey begins to tap into some hatred to gain the upper hand and eventually defeats Kylo, leaving him for dead on the wreckage of the Death Star, Rey takes possession of Palpatine's Wayfinder and leaves. His sources say that the Dark Rey moment seen in the D23 footage is in fact a vision described as a thematically similar one to Luke seeing himself as Vader in the cave on Dagobah, which is what I said it was too. This apparently is a short sequence that happens right after Rey picks up Palpatine's. Yeah, that makes sense. God, this is starting to sound like it's kind of real. I'm not going to lie. I'm not necessarily digging it. I'm not going to, it's interesting, but it does feel like it's real and I'm not really liking it. Now, while lying in the wreckage of the Death Star, in a weakened state, Kylo Ren reportedly sees a vision of his father. And it's kind of a come to Jesus moment. No word of whether or not this is going to be Harrison Ford. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. Han tells Kylo that it's never too late to change, and when he leaves Endor, he leaves not as Kylo Ren, but as Ben Solo. So that's his coming to Jesus moment. It doesn't make any sense to me. All of that just for his father to show up and go like, "Hey man, not everyone's a dick. All right? So why don't you like pull it out your ear and like chill out a little bit, dude. You had my ship on board. You didn't find my secret stash. Dumbass. Me and Kira used to get lit." Anyway, the duel is a critical tipping point for Rey as well. He's told that in the wake of her confrontation with Kylo, she takes the Wayfinder and flees to Ahch-To to collect her thoughts. Her mindset is reportedly to mirror Luke's while he was there prior to the events of The Last Jedi. the vision of a possible dark future for herself in conjunction to the fact that she nearly killed Kylo scared Rey in the same way considering killing Ben in his sleep scared Luke many years prior. She feared the path she was headed down and decided to swear off the Jedi, exiling herself to Ahch-To. Why? That makes no sense. That's not even Rey. It's not even Rey in her own mind. That's not, Rey's character would never do that. She's looking for her place in all this time. One time, like giving into a bit of anger and like almost taking out Kylo, given everything else, is not going to force her to stop and go, nah, I'm good. I mean, Luke, I kind of get, but Rey, no, not at all. Now, Rey scuttles the ship she used to get there, just like Luke did, and she caps it off by casting Anakin's reconstructor lightsaber towards her ship. Just when it looks like the Jedi Order is going to end again, the specter of Luke appears to Rey, holding her discarded lightsaber, and does what all good Force ghosts do, gives our hero the resolve to do what needs to be done to finish the work Luke began over 30 years earlier and to put an end to the Emperor for good. According to the source, Luke passes on Leia's lightsaber to Rey, and saying, I don't know where it came from or where it's been all this time. Yeah, that's kind of a weird one, isn't it? Just saying. You know, like she goes out there and she hucks it. She's like, I'm tired of you. No, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see this happening. This one here just feels like, I mean, this kind of feels like, I know I've said like, this kind of feels legit. If it's legit, this is pretty terrible. On the subject of Force Ghosts, Luke makes another appearance around the time Rey and Kylo's crisis of faith. Back at the main Resistance base, Leia's on her deathbed. Why? Because she's Yoda all of a sudden in this movie. Source describes it like Yoda's death, Return of the Jedi. Nothing bad happens. But it's just her time to go. Luke has come to say goodbye, but before it all ends, for Leia, he has one final lesson for her, and then there's nothing. There's no final lesson unless it's what comes up later, which is, trust me, it's not. If you're hating this, you are going to hate how it ends. I wish I was kidding. Now, Rey leaves Ahch-To and travels to the Sith Fleet in the unknown regions. Eventually, the Resistance fleet arrives and a battle ensues. Somehow, okay, wait, hold on. They're going to be going up against Star Destroyers with Death Star tech, with like the Resistance fleet, which if that's what we saw in the preview, with a couple of B-Wings, some Y-Wings, some X-Wings, and a couple of A-Wings, and like one blockade runner, or I think two blockade runners. Really? I mean, don't get me wrong, I love me a Corellian ship, but man, I don't see it happening. Now, the Emperor, or Rey finds her way to the Emperor, who has been waiting for her. Palpatine confirms what Kylo told her was true. Apparently, after his defeat at Endor, Palpatine was shaken by the fact he wasn't able to maintain his hold on Vader or seduce Luke to the darkness due to their familiar bond. During the course of their conversation, Palpatine makes a reference to the bond between Vader and Luke and likens it to his bond with Rey, hoping that whatever familial connection they have will be enough to win her over and become as strong as that of the Skywalkers. Jesus. It's what he's not Pelagus, man. Rey is trapped in the Emperor's throne room watching two opposing fleets battle, like Return of the Jedi, while she helplessly gazes onward. It's at this point that Kylo Ben reappears. How we get to this next part is still a bit fuzzy, but apparently Ben and Rey join forces and begin attacking Palpatine. Leia's lightsaber comes back into play when Rey and Kylo share the Skywalker lightsabers throughout their fight. At some point, the Emperor overpowers them both and supposedly kills Ben, right? So he just gets, taken out. So then this is when it looks like all hope is lost. The ghosts of Luke and Leia show up to aid Rey. Together, they overpower the Emperor and end his darkness once and for all. That's right, yeah. So during the final scene, the final battle, Kylo kind of sort of dies. Maybe. And then the ghosts of Luke and Leia show up. Because, Force ghosts can now do all sorts of things, like hold things and like use the lightsaber. I don't know. And they end his darkness once and for all. All right, jeez. That's so dumb. Now, as for what the other members of the Resistance are doing at this point, they are engaged in a space battle against Palpatine's fleet led by General Pride. This is Hux's father. The Resistance goal is to supposedly take out the flagship, severing communications and making navigation out of the unknown regions impossible. The flagship is destroyed around the same time that the Emperor dies, probably at the hands of the Millennium Falcon piloted by Lando Calrissian, which is what we saw. If this is true, that's probably what it is. Now, it says here that the last thing I was told regarding the final sequence of the film, I don't know why, but our heroes travel to Tatooine. During these scenes, it is supposedly revealed that Rey has cannibalized Anakin's Luke's lightsaber and Leia's to make one of her own, with apparently a gold and yellow blade, right? A gold and yellow blade. Okay, sure. She buries the leftover pieces on the grounds of the former Lars homestead. The final shots of the Skywalker Saga allegedly echo how the adventure began in 77. Our heroes gazing at the horizon, dreaming of the future as twin suns set in the distance. And that's it. That's the leaks. That's the leaks. That is the whole plot of this whole thing. And it's so bad. That is so ridiculously bad. I'm not even making that up. Like, it's so kind of dumb. Like Rey, okay, so Rey and Kylo fight the Emperor, who is so decrepit and near death that he's able to fight them, but he still needs, they still need some help. So Luke and Leia's body or ghost appears, and they fight him together. The 4-on-1 of a 113-year-old decrepit Emperor Palpatine. Come on. You know as well as I do that none of that makes any sense. But people are trying to treat this as real. There's been some other leaks that pop up too, something about time travel, something about a whole new timeline. I don't know, man. Like, we don't know until we see it. If this is the movie, if this is what it is, I'm going to be honest with you guys. The Last Jedi was a better film. If this is what JJ delivers, and part of it feels like a JJ thing, part of it feels like that, but it doesn't make any sense. It's just so bad. So not good. If this is it, this is fundamentally, this is craps on the Star Wars, on the Skywalker Saga at the end. If this is the key plot points. I mean, there's no mention of Lando's daughter. There's no mention of a lot of things that we know about, but then again, it's kind of an overview. We've had leaks appear on Reddit before, like Ghostbusters 2016 and a few other things that have popped up that have been real. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that this could be real. This could be the legit leak. And if this is accurate, oh my God, I will watch it. I will come home and I'll just be like, is dead. Because unless this doesn't do it justice and it's handled a lot better, but that ending just sounds terrible. It's like, well, we need to have Mark Hamill appear for something or another, and we're gonna use CG Leia, but we said we weren't gonna do it because that's the other part that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. And Harrison Ford coming back as Han? I doubt it. It just sounds like there's not a lot that goes on in the movie. And it's supposed to be like 2.5 hours, 2:45 from what I've been hearing. Ah, God, I hope it's not real. But anyway, your thoughts, your opinions, let me know down below. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this one. Also, if you guys want, come over to facebook.com/groups/3buck theater or Hollywood After Dark, my podcast. Stay tuned to the channel for more information on that one. Or if you want to really support the channel, and I hope you do outside of liking it and subscribing, patreon.com/Matt Jarbo really does help the channel out. If you enjoy it, give it a look, give it a $1. Thank you. And I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out.